May not seem like it with all the news that's been coming out of Blue Jays training camp in Dunedin, but today is actually the first full team workout. The position players report today. We've been talking about the bombshell Jose Bautista contract, the big trade that fell through at the last minute, so didn't happen. Lots to draw reporters, including our own Stephen D'Souza, who is live with us from Dunedin today. Great to see you, Stephen. I can tell spring is coming. We're talking baseball. Looking forward to that. But there's a lot of talk that's not really actually the sport of baseball, more the business of baseball. What's the talk there of Bautista's demands?
Well, everybody knew coming into this spring training, Heather, that Jose Bautista's contract, which is up at the end of this year, was going to be a major storyline throughout the year. But when Jose Bautista arrived here in Dunedin earlier this week and basically said, I've given them a number, I'm not going to move from that, they can take it or leave it, that was a bombshell that has just been the talk of spring training so far, and no doubt will be one of the first questions that's asked many of the position players when they step onto the field here later this morning, is that how is this going to affect this team that wants to repeat the success from last year when they have a cloud hanging over them and their star player, you know, the spirit, the heart and soul of this team, the bat flip, who can forget that from the playoffs last year? But to have this sort of hanging over the team now, it's going to be it's already caused a lot of controversy. It's going to be a bit of a distraction, and no doubt the players will tell you they can work past it and they're going to focus on the field, but this is something that's going to be hanging over the team, and the GM and the coach were both asked about it as well so far, and they've refused to take the bait, the GM saying he's not going to negotiate in public. So the question we're hearing, or the numbers we're hearing rather, are upwards of in the neighborhood of $30 million a year for the next 5 years. A lot of people wondering if Jose Bautista is worth that, and if perhaps he may have signed his fate here in Toronto, and that perhaps the Jose Bautista era may be over and this could be his final season as a Jay.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be a winning season if that's the case. All right, that's a storyline we're going to watch. You mentioned on the field, though, it's sometimes you forget this is actually a training camp, and a tryout. So what are the key battles for positions this year?
Yeah, well, the batting lineup for the most part, though, the batting lineup that's so powerful that gives pitchers across the league nightmares, that's remaining intact for the most part. So the battles we're going to be watching are in the pitching staff, and in the starting pitchers, Aaron Sanchez, who did so well as a reliever, he wants to be a starter this year, so he's gunning for that fifth starting position. David Price, as we know, has moved on to Boston, so there's a fifth starting job open, but he's going to be competing against Drew Hutchison, Jesse Chavez, and Gavin Floyd, who's a bit of a long shot. So Aaron Sanchez really looking to make his name as a starter here in spring training, and they're going to give him every opportunity to do that. And then on the back end of the pitching staff at the closer position, who can forget Roberto Osuna, the ice in his veins as he closed out so many games last year and in the playoffs. He's coming to camp expecting that's going to be his job, but in the offseason, the Jays acquired Drew Storen, who has had a lot of success as a closer. So the coach, again, has kind of left it open to interpretation as to whose job it is, but it's going to be some competition between Drew Storen and Roberto Osuna, and perhaps Aaron Sanchez might be back in the mix if he doesn't make it as a starter. So some interesting battles going on there that we'll be keeping an eye on as spring training unfolds.
Okay, and listen, just because I have you there for the first time and I'm seeing the background, the stadium, you know, some of the talk here at home has been, I guess, the discussion there. Do the Blue Jays need a new spring training home? Is that stadium too run down for them? What's the talk of that?
That's right. So this stadium here in Dunedin is one of the oldest and smallest of all of the major league spring training ballparks. And so the Jays have been here since 1977. This has been the only spring training home they've ever known, and their contract is up next year. And so it's been the talk for the last few years as to whether or not Dunedin will build a new facility for the Jays, one that's a state-of-the-art facility. And that's what the new president of the team, Mark Shapiro, that's what he's been talking about. He wants a place where players can feel at home, where they don't feel that they have to go somewhere else to find training and to find facilities, that they can come to spring training and come live here year-round if they need to, and this is where they would be. So he said yesterday that Mark Shapiro that charm is one thing, but charm will only take you so far. So it's a not-so-veiled message to Dunedin that they need to get their act together. So that's going to be something we'll be watching for as well, because this town really relies on the Jays. You see signs everywhere welcoming the Jays. It's in our hotel. It's in the Chamber of Commerce. You see all kinds of Jays memorabilia around. And so the Jays are an integral part of this community. And so people here definitely want them to stay, but it's up to up to whether or not they can provide a proper facility as to whether the Jays will actually remain here.
Of course, fans in Toronto are much more concerned with a World Series than they are with a new stadium there, but I can see why it's the talk. All right, Stephen, thank you so much. Great to see you there, and we'll look forward to your coverage from spring training. Stephen D'Souza.